Sunday, September 4th, 2022. We're at 96 National Historic Site. It is a Revolutionary War battleground. Part of the battles that were taking place at Kings Mountain, Cowpens in 96 were instrumental in the winning of the Revolutionary War. There's a lot of signs around here. Telling us all about what happened. You can pause and read these at your leisure. You can see there the Cowpens, King Mountain in 96. They were all kind of part of the major battles in South Carolina. And so far, I tell you what, they keep the grounds very neat. The bathrooms were immaculate. We just went in the bathrooms and they were immaculate. And you can tell there's a gentleman mowing the grass. So keep the grounds up very well so far. It's an old, you want to go over here and look at this old house? Let's go look at this old house. All right, look at this. Oh, that's been redone. That's unfortunate. Well, I guess it would be falling apart if they didn't redo it, huh? When at this stage, it's been several hundred years. It's an old log cabin. It's the original logs. You can see the axe marks in them. But this has been redone. Obviously, I mean, this thing would be falling down if they hadn't redone the chinking and the masonry in it. Yeah. And this, well, we got an old hearth.
We need one of these.
Yeah, look at that.
We need one of those.
What would we do with it?
Make pizza?
Make pizza. Got it. Ooh, the stocks. You got to get in them.
Doggy station.
Oh yeah, they got a little station for doggies. Look at that. So you can fill your water bottle, you can get a drink, and your dog can get a drink. So this cannon was used in the Battle of Starfort. June of 1781, yeah. Look at that thing. A little swivel cannon. It's pretty neat. So we are here. So we're going on the lookout for black widow spiders, fire ants, copperheads, poison ivy, and wasps. I don't think we're going to have too many problems with any of that out on this trail.
No.
So would that be a loyalist or a patriot?
I think it's Patriot by his garb.
Yeah.
We need to bring Lizine and Mike up here in November.
So, you know, oddly enough, both the patriots and the loyalists were Americans.
Mm-hmm.
They were all born here. With the exception of, you know, a few troops and stuff that were leadership that was shipped in from England. Most of the participants in the battle were born here. So this is a asphalt walking track. It's not the spongy rubber track like Kings Mountain is. This is actually asphalt. What?
Once dense forests, this area was gradually cleared by people, firestorms, and the introduction of non-native plants and animal species. By the time the Patriot troops arrived to camp nearby in 1781, there were open fields dotted with only tree stumps. Hoping to keep the approaching enemy in view and deny them cover in the woods, the Loyalists had cut down trees for up to a mile in each direction, so there were no trees here.
Historic Spring Branch.
Not much to it right now.
No, there's not a whole lot of spring in the branch right now, is there?
Mm-mm.
Dry as a bone. Dry as a bone right now. This would be probably a Patriot.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Having ridden from Tennessee or somewhere up in the Blue Ridge to come down here and shove out the Loyalists. And that was a road, huh? Island Ford Road.
The earliest roads in 96 were Indian trails.
So this would have been the road in here. Pretty cool.
Years of heavy use and erosion have caused the road's sunken appearance.
May 21st to 22nd, 1781, the Patriot forces arrive.
General Nathaniel Greene to command the Patriot forces in the South, December 1780.
He was the one that was up at Kings Mountain. Help preserve the past. Keep off the fragile earthworks.
Should be all of this.
Yeah, that would be that stuff. Okay, so there's 96. He's right there. There's the fort. And this is where, I guess this would be the Patriots were attacking the fort. May 28th to June 1st, 1781, the first parallel established a secure position for which Greene's men could advance. The trenches were dug mostly under the cover of darkness and involved back-breaking labor. Well, yeah, and you could get shot at too while you were digging, right?
You can see the zigzag patterns that they were talking about.
Oh yeah. So you can barely see where the trenches were. Obviously they were a lot deeper, but you can see the zigzag pattern so that you can see out different directions, all directions. So they didn't have a backhoe back then.
Nope.
The only backhoe was your back with a shovel in it in your hands. You had to be one bad mofo to be a soldier back then. Standing in a Revolutionary soldier's footprints.
They had little feet.
Well, I don't... that wouldn't be representative of everybody's feet. I guess you can hold the rifle. Grab the rifle. And stand in his footsteps. Our forefathers stood right here, dear.
I know.
And fought for our freedom.
Once a parallel was dug, troops could move artillery forward and place cannon in position to batter the enemy garrison. Greene's 6-pounders, guns firing 6-pound cannonballs, were placed on wooden platforms that sat on earthen fortifications about 20 feet high and allowed artillerists to fire directly into the Star Fort. These guns were manned by specially trained crews.
And so that would have been 20 feet high? Yeah.
On a wooden thing.
Yeah.
June 3rd, the sappers had finished the approach trenches and established a second parallel. Now that he was in a position to attack Kruger's stronghold, Greene, in keeping with the etiquette of siege warfare, made a formal demand for the Loyalist surrender. But Kruger saw no need to comply with Greene's demand. The Loyalist casualties so far were light, and he had enough heat to run away for another month.
So this trench, the sapper trench would have, that would be a sapper trench. And then this would be the parallel, because they can shoot out towards the Loyalist. So this would have been a parallel, and that would have been the sapper trench.
Second approach. Early in the siege, Greene set up a rotation to relieve the exhausted sappers. One team dug while another returned to camp to fashion gabions, huge baskets filled with earth, or gather wood for fascines, large
while you were
sticks or branches.
digging, when you went back to rest, quote unquote rest, you got to fill baskets and gather wood
and make trench walls.
So you didn't really rest. You just weren't digging. That affords you no cover. Because if you can fire on the enemy with it, they can see you and you're out there stuffing powder and cannonballs and stuff in it.
This is a rifle tower. In a single night, June 13th, a 30-foot tower made of interlocking logs was erected under Koziko's supervision. From the wooden platform, marksmen could aim down into the fort. The Loyalists responded to this threat by making the walls nearly 3 feet higher with sandbags. The Loyalists tried unsuccessfully to burn down the tower by firing heated cannonballs.
Why is that roped off?
Well, I want you to go in there. We shall be in the ditch of the enemy's works by tomorrow night or early morning, and the powder is wanting to blow up the works. I beg you will send the powder the moment this reaches you.
So this would have been a parallel right through here. And then there's a sapper trench that goes up to another parallel, and then there was a sapper trench that went around that way. And then this is the tunnel that they were digging, I guess.
It says the Star Fort siege ended before Cusco could prove its worth. Learning that the Loyalists were getting reinforcements, Greene called off the effort, and digging stopped short of the fort's ditch. The cone-shaped earthen passage with no beams or supports runs 125 feet from end to end and is a unique example of Revolutionary War era mine construction. The mine is one of the few remaining earthworks of the Revolutionary War. It is not accessible to visitors. So there
that's where it would
actually
be.
is 125 feet.
All right then. Not very big.
Hard to imagine. How do they get water and stuff? They must have had a well.
Who knows? How did they get water? How did the Patriots get water?
Well, there's creeks back there.
I imagine that the Loyalists got water from the creek too.
But they were in the fort.
Oh, okay. It's not like they jumped in there and shut the door and didn't come out. So they were shuffling troops probably in and out. Here, troops and supplies.
There's a sign over there, so I assume we can walk in here.
Yeah. There's some signs over there and stuff. Look at this. Those damn British forces were standing all inside of here at one time in history, dear.
Well, it was much higher. They had sandbags.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wooden and...
Now, there's your well. That's how they were getting water.
Threes there.
That's how they were getting water.
Water was critical.
So they never really actually finished it.
At 25 feet, no water was found and the effort was abandoned.
It's a pretty... The only thing that I have to say critical about this defensive kind of layout, the way it's laid out, is that the troops on this wall, while important to look out to make sure that you weren't getting flanked, weren't doing anything about that direction.
Well, that's what they said about having the stars. They could go both directions.
Well, yeah, but if I'm over here, I'm not really doing anything for that over there, which, eh. Yeah. But it's a good design. I like it. You get all of the rows of the compasses covered. I guess you would, you know, if they were coming from, let's say, that direction, you would stack most of your troops along the wall here, and there would be several layers deep. So your first layer would fire and then go to the back of the line. The second layer would move up, fire, and while that's happening, the first layer is reloading. I guess that's what they were doing. Either that or somebody was back there loading and passing it up to the people on the wall. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Communications trench. That meant some dude running through the trench.
Trench that ran here from the fort to the stockaded town was not actually covered, but was used for cover.
Yeah.
Official couriers, loyal recruits,
they were
and
bringing
slaves
water.
To bring water from Spring Branch to the Star Fort. With walls only 3 feet high, they had to crouch low to get through the passage unharmed.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I said you had to be a bad mofo to be a soldier back then. So that was the northeast corner of the village. So they were running from the village through the trench to the fort and back. So this would have been the village.
Dozen dwellings, a jail, and a courthouse.
So there was the town limits. There was the northwest corner, and that would be the northeast corner, I guess. So it wasn't a very big town or village, and they're not far from the fort. So if the women and children stayed at the village, I mean, they'd be all day and all night long listening to them fire back and forth, and they were hauling water through the trench, and food and men and supplies from the village to the fort in that trench.
As many as 100 Loyalist families took refuge in the town of 96 during the 1781 siege. They had to suffer the same hardships and disease as the Loyalist soldiers. After the battle, many families followed the British Army to Charleston, never to return to 96. And this was another road going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The hard-bitten lot, dear. You had to be tough to be a colonial. Mm-hmm. Couldn't be no poo nanny. Where's my Nintendo?
Yeah.
Air conditioning.
Mom, I need more toilet paper.
Oh. Mom, I'm out of toilet paper. Yeah, you didn't hear that said too much in 96 back in those days.
Had a dozen homes, a courthouse, and a jail.
Charleston Road. So if you wanted to go to Charleston, you hitched up your wagon and went that way. What do we have here? So if you take this trail, you might see deer. Berries, dogwoods, rabbits, and turkeys. So we're right here in the town. And that's the trail to Charleston. Huh, that's pretty cool. And here's where the town wall would have been. Not very big. 12 houses, a courthouse, and a jail in that little area.
Wait until it starts cooling
Oh,
down.
so wait. The jail wasn't inside the palisade then. Because there's the jail site.
Here.
So then there would have been 12 houses in the palisades. The jail was over there. If you ran afoul of the law, that's where you would be. So here was the creek where they were shuffling water back and forth from this to the town and to the soldiers in the fort.
Another communication trail.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can imagine that the Patriots probably had troops or snipers up all around here watching for people ferrying goods and stuff back here. Of course, I don't know if they'd have shot at women and children hauling water. You know?
During the sweltering months of the Star Fort siege of 1781, access to the spring was cut off by Patriot guards, causing panic among the loyalist troops and civilians.
Yeah. It would have been a trench.
Yeah, right now there's no
Dry as
water
a
in
friggin' bone. You'd be screwed right now. There ain't a drop of water in there. Is that part of the Cherokee Trail?
Yeah.
Oh, so this would be Williamson's fort in 1775.
Southern Land Battle of the Revolutionary War. Men fighting were all Americans. Loyalists supported British rules. Patriots wanted independence.
Yeah, that was a good place to build a fort.
Yeah,
right on top of
up
the hill.
high.
You had to fight your way up the hill. And then I guess this would be part of the trench that ran back down to the creek and to the fort and the palisades over there and the little village. And here's another place where you can grab a gun and act like you were a patriot. You can grab this gun and look at those little slits in that building.
Where they'd shoot back.
And where they shoot back. Yeah, they were shooting back. They weren't just sitting in there. Observation ports. So these are recreations of what the fort would have looked like. Not very big. It's a flagpole. I don't know if you can see in there. Probably nothing in there. Yeah. I don't know if the camera can see in there, but it's pretty much nothing. Yeah.
Sacred to the memory of James Bingham, volunteer.
Birmingham,
excuse me. Volunteer Long Cane Militia, killed at this site in the Battle of November 19th through the 21st, 1775, the first South Carolinian to give his life in the cause of freedom.
Huh. American Legion, Star Fort Post 103. In 1975, so that would have been 200 years after he died. They put this memorial up for him. Yeah, looks like we're coming back around to the park office in the parking lot. So I guess that would have been the road right here. Yeah, you can see it sunk down still a little bit. Right to there, yeah. Not a long walk. What, about a mile?
Yeah.
A lot of interesting things to see and think about as you're standing in the footsteps of our forefathers and foremothers.
All that way.
Well, that's it. That's all there is to it. This is 96 National Historic Site, they call it. 96 National Historic Site, not park. But that's all there is to it. Pretty cool.